Hi, I'm Brandy. This is Hound Dog Hollow, and today we're going to be having a chat slash interview with Nadine from the Fascinating Fairy and Hypno Fairy. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Nadine. A lot of people call me Fairy. I am the Fascinating Fairy and Hypno Fairy Quantum Energetics. I do hypnosis, quantum healing. I also do psychic readings and stuff along the esoteric lines of uh, energy work.
And I can testify, I do love your work. So that's kind of why I wanted to, this series of interviews that I've been doing, I wanted to share what I have been learning, who I've been learning from, doing workshops, and just like how I've been enriching my life this year. And you've been a major part of that. So I definitely wanted to kind of have you talk a bit about like what you do and some of your areas of expertise, because I feel like at first it's very like whoa, but then
Yeah.
once you're into it you're like, okay, it makes sense, and when you experience it you're like, okay, this has been a missing piece. At least for me, that's how I felt.
Yes. So I specialize in working with doing shadow work and working with traumas. So these aren't just traumas from this life. I work with traumas that are embedded in the subconscious from past lives, parallel lives, quantum lives. So this is energy that we've carried and created and held within our energy systems for many lifetimes for some of us. And what I do is I start looking for like the deep rooted experiences and traumas that we kind of hold within our psyche that are still affecting us today. Because even though it happened in another life, we can still hold the trauma from that experience. So what I do is I investigate using journey techniques where I kind of allow you to relax your body, go into your own subconscious, and then you kind of just tell me what you're seeing, experiencing, feeling, and I kind of take what I know from experience and then also from working with other people on how to kind of navigate through each experience. I don't make you relive traumas. Is what happens is a lot of times you'll become aware that there was a trauma. You'll even be able to observe what the trauma was, but it don't actually make you go through the trauma again. So is what we do is we actually look at transforming the trauma into something else, because time and space is actually very flexible, including the past. So if we can look at a past trauma and we can transform it into something that taught us something, allowed us to grow. And then I also use visualizations where we actually physically transform the trauma into something beautiful. You're no longer holding that pain, that lower dense energy in your body and in your subconscious. So then it has the opportunity to alchemize into something more expansive in your reality. So instead of replaying this loop, this cycle, this wheel of trauma, you're now released from that hamster wheel and you can start creating something entirely new. So this is new territory. This is the opportunity to open up to new timelines and experiences that are no longer linked to a past experience, a past trauma, whether it was from this lifetime or a past life.
That's so important, Nadine, because I don't feel like we realize that we're repeating these same patterns because of something that happened. And I feel like once we're shown that, everything clicks into place. It's like, oh, okay, I see you now. And I don't want to say, because I have to be careful. I have, as a nurse, I don't want to say like all your problems are going to be fixed. But once you can see what the problem is, I feel like that makes a big difference, because then you can start identifying how it plays out in your life. And you can be like, is that my actual thought or is that my reaction from this trauma?
Exactly. It's the observation of that there was a trauma, that there was a cycle that was being repeated, that there was a loop that you were stuck in. Observing that is how you actually neutralize the energy, because you're no longer just on this autopilot where I'm just going to keep running that hamster wheel until I like pass out. It's like, okay, I'm on a hamster wheel. I'm aware that I'm on a hamster wheel, and I have the ability to get off that hamster wheel now because I know that I'm on it, instead of just running, not knowing why you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, it makes me think of you being in Groundhog Day, but not realizing that you're doing the same day. And then the journey helps you be like, oh, okay, I'm stuck. I have to start doing things differently, or else I'm going to keep waking up the same day.
Exactly. We
So,
also do have we also do have physical representations of our trauma. So this can be in the form of different health problems and experiences. So as we observe and shift out of those realities that were connected to those traumas, we can a lot of times see different aspects of our health, our mental health, our physical health, and even our spiritual health begin to improve as we kind of see where we were limiting ourselves and how that was creating a blockage or a pain within the body, a trapped emotion, sometimes just holding on to a specific emotion because it's connected to a trauma that you're not even fully aware of can create pain within the body. So if you have like mystery pain, mystery ailments, you don't know where they're coming from, it could be connected to trapped emotions.
that's so true, Nadine. And the fact that you are so in tune with that when Western medicine is just barely getting in with that. So I'm in nurse practitioner school, and they're actually talking now about how human beings, we used to deal with them like a machine. And then now we know that human beings are actually more like chaos theory. You have a machine that should function in expected ways, but because we have so much going on mentally, we're prone to just go off in random directions and not actually do the thing. So I love how you talk about how your physical body, your mental space, your emotional, your spirit, and all of those other energy layers are all intimately connected, and you can't separate them to heal yourself. Can you talk a little bit more about that and chakras? I love when you because it makes so much sense.
Yeah. So we do have many chakras, but there are 7 main chakras that most people are familiar with once you start kind of tuning into and tapping into more of that kind of energetic or spiritual nature of yourself. So most people are familiar with just the main 7. So that's your root chakra, your sacral chakra, your solar plexus, your heart, your throat, your third eye, and then your crown. So each of those chakras is connected to something very physical within your reality. So if you're having a lot of lower back pain within the root chakra, you feel just a lot of heaviness in your hips and in that lower back area, you could be holding on to trapped emotions connected to guilt, connected to fear, connected to not feeling safe, not feeling grounded, not feeling like you have a home. This is all energy that's connected to that center. So if that's something that you're feeling a lot of pain in that area, and you're also dealing with a lot of problems connected to that area, you could be holding a lot of trapped emotions or trauma connected to those frequencies, because everything is a frequency. When you get right down to it, everything's a frequency, everything is energy. And then we have this physical experience that kind of is the projector of all of that energy and frequency. So when you get into the sacral chakra, you're looking at stuff that's highly ancestral. You're looking at, a lot of feminine wounding is carried in the sacral chakra. This is also where we hold like our sexual energies. And so if it's like overactive or underactive, there's going to be a lot of issues with that. This is also where, because it's tied into your sexual energies, that's your creation energy. So if you're a creative person and you're feeling creatively blocked, that's also tied into the sacral chakra. And when you get into the solar plexus, you're looking at a lot of inner child, you're looking at your intuition, you're trusting and connecting with that soul energy. So that's the sun energy that brings you that joy. And then also that spiritual feeling, like when they're always like, you feel it in your gut. That's like that first, sensation that soul is trying to nudge you in a specific direction. Like you feel it in your gut. That's your intuition awakening. And because we're so intuitive as children, because the brainwave state is actually at a lower state, as a child, you exist primarily in the theta brainwave state. So that is actually how you begin tapping into your intuition, is in that brainwave state. That's why when people meditate, they get downloads, they get knowings, they see and feel and sense things that they couldn't when they're in those higher brainwave states. So the solar plexus is heavily tied into not just our psychic abilities and our intuition, but also our inner child. So when we have a damaged inner child, even from other lifetimes, it can severely affect our ability to tap into our own intuition or trust our intuition. And then we start seeking validation from outside sources that tell us how to feel, what's right, what's wrong, rather than trusting ourselves, because we always will feel what is right and what is wrong in our gut. But a lot of us won't trust that because we have like damage, and a lot of it comes from the inner child. Most of it. I'm not going to say all of it, but most of it comes from the inner child. Then when you get into the heart, you're looking at grief, loss, stuff from the past. The heart holds everything from the past. So significant stuff from past lives, experiences, relationships is all held within the heart. When I'm doing quantum healings on people and I get into the heart, like my visions will explode. I start seeing so much. That's like where you really start tapping into like the quantum realms as well as through the heart. And then a lot of heaviness is held within the heart. This is why people get chest pains. A lot of times you'll feel it if this is something coming a lot from like past lives or stuff in the unconscious that you don't want to look at, you're going to feel it in your back. So one of the kind of the navigators is if I feel it a lot in the front, I know it's more in the conscious. If I feel it a lot in the back, then it's more in the unconscious. So that's kind of one of the tools you can use to work with yourself. Like if you're feeling a lot of pain in between your back, in between your shoulder blades, like where your heart chakra is, but on the backside, you're like, oh, wow, that must be coming from a past life. That, especially if it's pain that has no reason to be there, like you don't have an injury, your spine is fine, everything's fine, but you have chronic pain there and nobody can explain to you why you have that pain. It could be trapped emotions. And a lot of us carry a ton of trapped emotions in that part of our body. That's actually one of the parts of the body that I have to work with the most when working with the energy centers. And it also tends to be tied into other chakras. Like I'll go into the heart and there'll be all these strands that are connected to, your crown, connected to your root, connected to your sacral, but they're all like pulling from the heart because we hold so much there. When we get into the throat chakra, you're looking at authenticity and being able to express yourself in truth. So this isn't just speaking your truth, which is an important part of the throat chakra, being able to speak authentically so people can feel your words and not dismiss them as easily, but also that authentic expression of your overall self. So a lot of times we'll put on like suits and layers in order to make ourselves more comfortable around other people. We design personalities for ourselves that aren't really truly us in order to make us more likable to other people. The more suits you put on for other people, the less authentic you become with yourself. This creates a lot of problems within the throat and can also express itself in physical problems. One of the things I've noticed with people who have significant throat chakra issues is thyroid problems. Thyroid seems to be directly connected to throat chakra, blockages. So if you're having thyroid problems and you have no reason, there's no family history, you don't know why you have those imbalances within your hormones, there could be some trapped emotions in the throat chakra. And a lot of those will go back to the solar plexus. The throat and the solar plexus are very much connected in that way. So a lot of times I'll dive into the inner child and I'll be like, were you a child that used to like to talk a lot and share, everything you were seeing, feeling, experiencing, and parents or adults or authority figures were like, you talk too much. You don't need to tell everybody everything all the time. Like that kind of language to children creates those blockages within the throat chakra. And we don't mean to do it. I'm guilty of it as a mother myself. It's something I had to become aware of because I realized, I was doing it to my own kids and it was something that had happened to me. And I was always a very talkative child. Because of that, I stopped talking. Like as an adult, I became very shy, very closed off. I didn't want to talk to people, didn't want to socialize unless I was in control of the scenario. Like if I was working, like because I was a bartender for a long time. If I was behind the bar, I would talk to anybody and everybody, and that was fine. But as soon as I got on the other side of that bar, I didn't want to talk to anybody, because it's like being in that suit, the bartender suit, was made it easy for me to express to people what they wanted to see and hear from me, but it was never truly me. Like I was always very good at telling stories, but they were never my stories. I would just entertain people, but I wasn't fully authentic, and I had to realize that. It's part of why I'm not a bartender anymore. It wasn't healthy for me to constantly be a different person every time I would go to work, instead of just being who I was.
Yeah.
So yeah, third eye is very much connected to our psychic abilities, but also our ability to see the bigger picture. So not everybody's going to be clairvoyant. Not everybody is going to be fully tapped into their psychic abilities, but that does not mean that their third eye is blocked. That does not mean that their third eye is closed off. It does not mean that it is shut down. Everybody's third eye works differently. Some people are very highly clairsentient, claircognizant. They just have strong sense of knowing. They don't actually see, hear things of otherworldly presence. They just know things. And a lot of people don't realize that that's actually a psychic ability. The third eye is actually pretty open for most people. I've come to realize they think, oh, my third eye is blocked because I'm not having visions. No, not everybody is going to have visions. Some people are more predominantly clairvoyant. Some people are more predominantly clairaudient, claircognizant, clairsentient. There's so many different ways that our psychic abilities express themselves. Just because you're not having visions does not mean your third eye is closed. The third eye is the ability to see the overall bigger picture outside of a perspective of duality. So if you're looking at things and you're saying that's bad, that's good, that's right, that's wrong, then you're not allowing your third eye to kind of dictate your reality. If you can look at a bad situation and be like, well, you know, this is bad that's happening, but there's a reason for that, and that means it's going to become something good in the future. There's always a reason, even if we can't see it right away. That's when the third eye is really working. The third eye is what opens you up to clarity and understanding and being able to see the overall bigger picture. So if you could imagine a triangle, your third eye would be the top of that triangle, and the two bottom points of that triangle would be positive and negative. So you're seeing both sides of the lens of the story to get the overall bigger picture. That's how the third eye works.
Yeah.
And when that's blocked, you're constantly in a state of duality. So if you're always thinking everything's good or bad, you can't see the bigger picture of the good and the bad, because bad things come out of good things and good things come out of bad things. To be able to see that is seeing the bigger picture. And that also puts you in a state of neutrality where you're not judging your experience, whether it's good or bad. Because a lot of times good things will happen and we'll go into fear, you know?
Yeah.
And so if we can allow ourselves to be like, okay, this good thing is happening and it could turn bad in the future, but that's okay, because eventually it will become good again. That is a neutral way of seeing things. And that's how we work with our third eye and use our third eye. It's also, you know, how we see visions and energy and be able to tap into psychic abilities, but that's not the overall. With the crown chakra, that's a big one. A lot of people think their crown chakra is blocked, and it's really not. The crown chakra is how we connect with source. It's how we really feel outside of our humanness. If you feel like just a basic human and nothing more than that, then you probably do have some crown chakra blocks. But if you have been able to tap into your realization of being, you know, a spirit in a body, not a body with just a spirit, like your spirit is huge. This body is just a tiny little piece of that spirit. Coming to that realization is that crown chakra opening. And a lot of us have opened our crown chakras and come into the awareness that we're more than just a body. And that is the crown chakra opening. That is where our downloads start coming in. This is where our realizations start coming in and opening up. And this is how we kind of can navigate through the spiritual energy that comes into our reality, because it comes in through the crown. When you channel, when you work with spirit, when you have spiritual energies around you, a lot of times you'll feel it come in through the crown, and then it will filter through all your different energy centers to kind of give you more information.
That's wonderful information. And it really, so I'm trying to kind of like put into words how my experience of what you do is. So I feel like there's like an energy healing and kind of investigation
Mhm.
aspect. And then there's also some quantum stuff, which is super high level stuff. And I had to do physics for undergrad, so I'm vaguely familiar with some of the concepts of physics, but physics is massive, especially quantum physics. And
Yes.
there's so much that we don't know, and so much of it is, frankly, sounds just like magic, like
Yes.
unobserved particles versus observed particles, and just parallel universes and things like that. Those are actual scientific theories in quantum
Mhm.
physics. So there's that aspect as well. So basically, I saw an interview with you, and I was like, it was right after my miscarriage in March, and I was like, I'm open to try anything to not feel this fucking terrible. And so I had a consult with you, and which is the first step, right?
Yes.
And then can you talk a little bit about like from consult to like a quantum hypnosis session?
Okay, so the consultation, anybody can sign up for one. They're 15 minutes and they're free. And I definitely recommend consultations before you start a session. I have people that go right into sessions. Like if you're pretty familiar with um, guided meditations, energy work, quantum hypnosis, spiritual work, the consultation is not super necessary. But if you have specific things you want to work on, talk about, feel more comfortable about with hypnosis, definitely do a consultation. And like I said, they're 15 minutes, they're free. I usually try to keep them pretty short so that way, it's not like you're trying to fit in time for a consultation and then time for a hypnosis session. The hypnosis sessions I also keep pretty short. I keep them at about an hour. That way, because we go through such intense stuff in a session, I don't like to do the 4 to 5 hour sessions that you get with other quantum hypnotists. I prefer to stick with an hour because that way we're working on one, maybe two things, because the integration aspect of pulling things from deep within our subconscious and having to look and observe them, there's an integration part of that that happens afterwards. And that can be overwhelming sometimes, and you have to give yourself enough time to fully allow the shift to happen. If you're just loading yourself on with all of this stuff that has to be integrated, I don't feel like there's a proper integration that happens, and it's like taking one step forward, two steps back. I'd like to take one step forward, integrate that step, and then take another step forward after that. So that's why I kind of keep them a little bit limited and a little bit short. Um, Basically, going into a session with me is super easy. There's like nothing required of you except for a comfortable place for you to lay down and maybe, a quiet room or just somewhere that's a little less chaotic that you can go inwards and really relax and not be distracted by things outside of you. Um, it's very similar to guided meditation. I kind of guide you into breathing techniques that help you relax the body. And once I feel like you've gotten into a bit of a relaxation, usually takes 5 or 10 minutes of just kind of talking you into different breathing, just telling you to breathe deeply, relax. And I also use energy healing, quantum alchemy to kind of make it work faster. So you feel the energy in the body, and it's almost kind of like taking an anti-anxiety medication or something like that. It's very similar as far as the feeling that you get. Your body gets very kind of relaxed and buzzy and a little bit tingly. And this is just because I'm running energy on you that actually makes you feel more relaxed. And this is why I'm able to kind of get people to relax a bit quicker. Once I feel like you've kind of find a steady breath, so a lot of times I'll look at your breathing, I'll listen to your breathing, I'll listen for like moving around. Um, when I feel like you've gotten into a state where you're pretty relaxed, you're breathing slowly and steadily, and you're not moving around a lot, then I'll start going into like visualization. So with every session, I do a visualization where I ground you because that's extremely important, especially when you're doing astral journeying, quantum journeying. Whenever you're going out of your body in any way, you need to be firmly rooted into the earth. Otherwise, coming back, you're going to feel like disconnected still. So as you're firmly rooted and grounded, bringing you back into your body, you can come back into your body and fully ground back into your body instead of going back into like kind of a disconnected or disembodied feeling. And then also, once I ground you, I connect you with your source. So for whatever that is, because I deal with a lot of different spiritual and religious constructs within my practice, I just use the term source unless you have a specific name or energy you like to connect with. But I just have you connect with your source energy and bring that connection down into your body and allow it to surround you with a shield of protection, because psychic protection is important when you're doing any kind of work like this, because you will see, meet, interact with other energies, sometimes other beings, sometimes other entities, sometimes ETs, sometimes, you know, what we would perceive as mythological creatures. These are all very common within the state of hypnosis. So psychic protection is extremely important, extremely important. And so it's absolutely necessary for me to go walk you guys through those visualization techniques before I take you on a journey. That way, anything you interact with is not going to attach itself with you, hurt you, or make you feel any kind of negative way. And if you're being faced with a trauma or a being, attachment, an entity that is not nice, you are protected. And in that time, that space, that moment, we're actually able to change and transform whatever that is. A lot of times, like if it's what would be perceived as like a negative entity, there's usually an opportunity to transform whatever that is into a light being, into its true form, because all negative entities have a light inside of them, a true form inside of them. And if they don't, they just become light, because everything is energy. And so if you're holding a lot of dense energy, it can form itself into what could be perceived as an entity. And so it's what we do is we just revert it back into that light. But because of the psychic protection, you never have to worry about, you know, being attacked or getting any kind of attachments while you're in the astral. It's always very, very safe and very protected. And so because of that, we're able to do a lot of really powerful work. People who struggled with like clairaudient issues where they're hearing a lot of negative things, a lot of times we can pull that energy out, we can put it into a ball right in front of you, and I can have you transform that ball into something completely different. And then that energy is no longer held within your body, your energy bodies or spiritual bodies, emotional bodies, wherever it's being held as that perceived negative entity.
Amazing. I know. So one of the things I think that what kind of frightened me or threw me off at first was like the hypnosis part, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I can trust this person. I don't want to have like some trigger word that's going to make me cluck like a chicken or something crazy. But the fact that it's kind of a deeper, almost guided meditation really set me at ease. And I think that every time you do it, it gets easier.
Yes.
But not just that, I feel like it really intensified my spiritual practice, because I'm able to really get deeper in my work and my connection with guides, ancestors, spirit, because I'm doing those journeys with you. I feel like calling that up on my own is far easier now in other situations.
Yes, that is one thing that will happen, especially when you do regular sessions with me, is you will become more comfortable with your own inner voice and your own inner journeys and your own power. A lot of people don't even believe that they can go into hypnosis, that they can have a vision, that they can experience a past life. And so they don't. They just don't, because they don't believe in themselves. And so after the first session, a lot of times people are like, wow, I didn't even know I could do that. And so just believing that they can do that allows them to access that part of themselves even more easily, because everything that we ever need to know is inside of us. We don't have to have somebody else tell us what we need to know. It's all the information we will ever need in this life is already like inside of us. So the more you learn how to kind of tap into that inner world and go on those inner journeys, you can start accessing more and more information, wisdom, knowledge, higher consciousness that hasn't even been implemented into this reality yet. And this is where quantum physics gets really interesting, because there's so much quantum information out there that's only just being tapped into, and these are a lot of scientific methods and theories that are aligned with that. So as you, as a spiritual being, can tap into that information as well, you can take the spiritual aspect of it as well as the scientific aspect of it and merge it together. And then you can see a bigger picture rather than only the scientific side or only the spiritual side. Now you can see both, and it changes the perception into more of like a circle versus like a one-sided thing.
For sure. I do believe that eventually all of what we do in witchcraft or, manifestation, intentional living, folk magic, whatever your spiritual frame of reference is, can be explained scientifically if only we had the tools, the knowledge, the base. I feel like we will eventually explain these things, because quantum physics, I think, really goes a long way about spiritual aspects, but even things like epigenetics, the fact that every single thing that happens to you will affect at least 3 generations in the future, really speaks to the intense importance of your ancestral work.
Yes,
so
that's
so much
important.
science is out there that we need to connect
Yes.
with our spirit. And as a nurse, I encounter so many people in the community that are like, oh, all of this is bad and they don't know what they're talking about and just poo-pooing science. And I love how your practice, really, you're pulling a lot on science and spirit, and you're making it into this one thing that's just so powerful.
Yes. And I hope that in the future, more and more people will start latching on to the idea that science is spiritual. And it is not just, old dudes sitting there with their nose in a book writing stuff down. There's so much more to it. And this generation, these generations that are existing right now in this time, in this space, have the ability to see both sides and merge the two together. Like, we're the bridges that create that merger of science and spirituality, so that we can see that they are very much like intimately connected. You can't have science without spirituality. You can't have spirituality without science, because everything that can be explained scientifically also has a spiritual nature to it.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes the scientific study has been based on spiritual, like for astronomy is based completely on astrology. They weren't different in the past. And medicine was absolutely completely spirit until we started learning about, germs and surgery and stuff. But all of it was based on spiritual knowledge at first. So we started there. We really changed away from it in the Industrial Revolution. And I feel like you said, we're coming back to it. Like, okay, these two things are not disparate forces. They're one and the same. It's just our frame of reference and our understanding for that.
Mm-hmm. We got to see it from both sides of the lens.
Yes. I want to talk a little bit about all the stuff that you do. I'm going to come back to the quantum hypnosis because I really that's my favorite thing. That's what's really been helping me. But I'm going to put some links in the chat. So basically, you have a Facebook and you have 2 YouTubes. I'm going to put the YouTubes first because there's also some videos on there that really explains different things that you're doing, and your light work and things like that. They're on those videos, and you also have lots of offerings every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You have a live. I work until so late, I never get to see it. But and then Instagram is another place where I see you a bit. Oh, and I'm going to put your Patreon.
Yes. So I don't post a lot on Instagram. I'm trying to get better about that. but I do use it as a messaging platform for a lot of my clients, new clients, people to find me. It's a great place to find me. My YouTube channel, Hypnofairy Quantum Energetics, has a couple sessions from a while ago. They're from when I kind of first started working with people publicly. So they're a little older. Eventually, I'll start sharing more in the future once I feel like I've got a few that are. A lot of the sessions I've done are extremely intimate, so they're not really stuff that I want to share publicly. The ones that are shared are a little bit more available for people to observe and see, where we didn't go super deep into like the personal aspects of that person. It was more like they were meeting with, quantum aspects of themselves. And there is one where I do a little bit of psychic surgery. So if you've never experienced what that's like, it's very much similar. I actually have you do psychic surgery on yourself when we go into our journeys. So it's something that I do with people during the quantum alignment, the chakra alignment healings, is I'll do a little bit of psychic surgery. But I also, when you're in the hypnosis, a lot of times I have you do psychic surgery on yourself. So that's kind of that transformation. It's a form of alchemy. So I use my own alchemy, which I use in the form of different symbols, which become energy, which works with different parts of your body, very specific. And then I also allow you to use your own ability to transform what it is you're seeing, feeling in your journey into something different. That is alchemy. It's taking that base frequency template experience that was bad or traumatic and transforming it into a golden frequency, something powerful, something positive, something beautiful.
Yes, I love that. Another thing I wanted to mention was, I feel like at the end, because I rewatch my videos and I journal about them to make sure that I get all of that information, because some of it I'm saying out loud to you, and some of it I'm thinking in my head, and I want to make sure that I write those visions down.
Yes.
But you put a lot of positive thoughts in there at the end.
Okay, so yes, the end is where I do neurolinguistic programming. So I did a couple courses in neurolinguistic programming in order to better talk you guys through your journeys in a way that was always going to affect the mind in a positive way. So I needed to understand fully how words affect the subconscious. So as a neurolinguistic programmer, practitioner, it's really important to implement programs, because everything in the subconscious is a program. Like your parents tell you something and you put that into your subconscious as a program. So what I do is I write programs, and it's almost the same thing, around the same thing that I say at the end of every session. That way it's a running program that's implemented over a longer period of time. So it's basically me saying, now that you've healed yourself so beautifully, so I'm confirming and reaffirming to you that you've healed during the session so that you can feel that healing. I allow you to kind of visualize or feel yourself stepping onto a higher path alignment. So this is you physically taking yourself off that wheel and moving into a better path. And then I also implement what I call the program, which is where we're always going to experience obstacles in our reality, because these obstacles are what help us grow. So is what I do is I implement a new perception of what an obstacle is to you. So in the programming, I tell you, any obstacle you experience from here on out is only going to launch you into higher timelines. Like it creates a shortcut for you. So now as that program implements more into your subconscious, anytime an obstacle comes into your reality, there's a program already embedded within you that's saying, oh, this obstacle is actually going to create a shortcut for me. So I can be grateful that this is happening, because I know whatever comes out of this is going to be really good. So that's part of that programming. And then I will reassure to you that you have the ability to draw in infinite loving interactions, because a lot of us feel like we are not lovable or we don't deserve to be loved. So that's kind of my way of telling you that you are lovable, you deserve to be loved. And as you believe in yourself and that love, that ability to give love and have love, you get to experience more of that. Because it's always us that creates our reality, as much as we don't want to believe that it's true. So it's just another form of embedding that within the subconscious. Like, you can bring in more loving interactions simply by loving yourself more. And so it's like a real short statement, but it's very powerful, and it's all positive affirmations. And I do programming throughout the journey as well, but that's just one very specific program that I kind of use for everybody because it's so important. It's kind of like a one size fits all, and it takes care of a lot of people's issues when it comes to like feeling stuck, not being able to move forward, not knowing how to deal with the situation that's right in front of us right now. Like, how do I work through that? So when you're faced with an obstacle, you have this program already embedded within you that's telling you, hey, this is going to help you. So as bad as this looks right now, it's going to be really good for you in the future.
Yeah, I like to think of that part as like one of two things. So we always have a voice in the back of our head, and a lot of times it's kind of negative. And I kind of think of the programming that you're doing is kind of being that little voice of dissent saying, wait, is it really that bad? Are we blowing it out of proportion? Is there really nothing? Like, so it, and that voice, that negative voice gets quieter over time as you practice listening to the positive voice, right?
Yep, you got the shoulders, demon and the
Yes.
angel.
Yes, and before I think like, especially when you're solo, like when you're really, really sad, it's so easy to just lean into that negative stream of consciousness, those voices, the thoughts. It's really easy to get in that loop because that's where you are. But it's so helpful to have just a little extra boost on that counter voice saying like, not just that it's going to be okay, but that you can do this, that there is value in this, that you can, like, that you will grow and evolve and learn, and this is not the end. So I really appreciate that aspect as well. But something I really, really want to talk about is the fact that you are going to get out of this experience what you put into it, and you have to shut up that negative voice for a little while. You have to calm down and really just go wherever this journey is taking you. I feel like sometimes in the past, before I had been working with you, I would do a journey and I'd be like, kind of like, I'm just talking to myself. But at the same time, so what if you're just talking to yourself? You talking to yourself is the whole of reality. It's the whole of your reality.
Yeah.
So why not just lean into like, but what am I saying? Even if it is yourself, what are you saying? What message do you have for yourself if the only thing that you're listening is yourself? But I have seen like Gandalf, and just I've gone on some journeys, and what it really is, Nadine, and I think that you just do it so beautifully, is that's just my subconscious or my spirit guides coming to me in any way that they think that I'll understand what the hell they're trying to tell me.
Exactly.
So don't doubt yourself. I just follow where she takes me, and I'm like, okay, I'm with Gandalf. And if I really think about it, yeah, that's stupid, but what does he represent to me in my spirit? And that's what he is supposed to be. Yeah. And that's how I get so much out of it.
Exactly. That's so important too. And that's actually pretty common with people, because you see, mythological creatures, you see people from movies and TV, because this is how our subconscious speaks to us in a way that we can see and understand what's trying to be brought into our awareness. So like seeing Gandalf is actually your way of tapping into, the energy of a wise old wizard that can help you tap into your magic. And for you, because visually you need to be able to see something besides just streams of light everywhere, it becomes Gandalf.
And but you know how it has helped me in my spiritual practice, because like I had a problem connecting with spirit guides. I knew that they were always with me. And I've been doing ancestor work for years, which ancestors, I can see the face of my ancestors because I know what they look like in life. And it's probably not my grandfather coming to me all the time because he's recently deceased. But when I see a male ancestor, I typically see him. And so what this helps shift in my mind is that like I could call forth spirit guides and they would look like one of my recent spirit guides is the mom from God, what's the movie? Crazy Rich Asians. And I was like, I know that that's not the thing, but that's the closest that this spirit can come to represent what it is, that's the closest my mind can get to this spirit's message. It's really
Yes.
helped my spirit work in that, okay, now I have this different frame of reference where I can say, like, this message is coming to me in whatever way that my brain can process it.
Exactly. Exactly. And the movies that we watched when we were kids and even as
Oh yeah.
adults is how we use our imagination and tap into our imagination. And everything you watch on TV, everything you read in a book, everything you listen to on the radio, it all helps embed those programs within your subconscious. So when you have information that needs to come forward, whether it's from a past life, a parallel life, a quantum life, it's going to use that information to try to get the message to you. So, you could go into fairyland and see, Maleficent, and she could be your guide. That doesn't necessarily mean you're just, all up in your imagination and none of this is real because Maleficent is there. No, it's because she represents that frequency of fae that needs to be seen and shown to you. But you don't have any frame of reference of what to look at except for what you saw in a movie, which was Maleficent. So that's how it shows itself to you. That doesn't necessarily mean it's Maleficent, you know?
That makes so much sense. And I don't feel like I really leaned into that knowledge until I started journeying with you. And the same thing for dreams.
Mm-hmm.
The dreams are also symbols. I've always been a prophetic dreamer since I was a kid. Um, and now it makes so much more sense because I'm like, okay, it looks like this thing, but what does this thing mean to me? Because that is what it's trying to say, if that makes sense.
Symbolism.
Yes.
Symbolism is super important. And that comes up a lot in sessions too. Like you'll go into a house, but it's a house you've never seen before. That house could represent you, your body, your mind in the different rooms within the house or different areas of your own subconscious. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's a house that actually exists anywhere. It's just a representation of how your subconscious is trying to show you your mind. So if this is a house that's super old and run down and it's breaking everywhere, that could show you, different aspects of your own body, like where and you could even go into a journey and see yourself fixing that house, giving it a new coat of paint, and then your body will actually improve from that because that is the representation in your subconscious of what your body looked like as a house. And so as you fix that house in your subconscious, the projected reality of that actually improves. And this is how I have helped myself. I was a very, very, very sick individual just a few years ago to the point where I didn't really feel like I had much time left on this planet. Like I was looking at like 2 or 3 months, which seems totally like, I know that a lot of that was just my own mind, scaring me, but I was trying to prepare myself to leave this planet because I didn't feel like my physical body could hold me anymore until I had to realize, and that was actually how I got into hypnosis, what through my own meditation and hypnotic journeys that I did with myself, watching my physical health improve when I would go into these journeys and shift out of past, like that was kind of also how I developed the technique of transforming the past into something beautiful. Was I would go in and I would start to see and experience a trauma or a memory, and I would already know how it was going to play out before it would even start. It would I would go in and I'd be like, I don't want to relive this. Like, I don't want to. So I wouldn't. I would change it right then and there. I'd be like, okay, how could I make it different? How could I see a different potential of how the outcome could happen? And I would allow myself to experience that different potential, and then my body would change, my health would improve, and I was like, wow, there's something to that. And so it was over a couple years of seeing myself improve through my own shifting of past experiences and past lives. Like, I don't want to see myself die like that. So what if I changed what happened here that caused the death here and then got to live out this reality? What would that look like? And I show myself the potential of what that could look like if I essentially changed this reality from the past. And I guess you could say that's a little bit like time traveling. But what it did was it released what I was holding connected to that death or that trauma, that experience. I no longer had to feel that and hold that within my body, because I got to see how it could have been different. And I got to choose to experience that different reality. Therefore, it shifted my physical reality.
And I mean, I'm a testimony. I was pretty low when we started, and I feel like not, I did a lot of things to heal, but I feel like every session, I tend to get something intensely moving out of it. I don't think I've ever had a session where I didn't cry, and I'm just
No, your sessions are always very powerful.
Because I try to just let go and just let it happen. And I've been visited by grandparents and angels and all sorts of things, and it's been really helpful to me. To The main message is like, every little kid is born magic, right? And then whatever happens in our life squishes us and molds us and forces us to make ourselves small to fit into society and reality the way that other people perceive it. But for most of us who are empaths and witches and pagans, and or even just spiritual beings or starseeds, however you see yourself, we are too big for this body. And if you are always confined to it, I don't feel like you feel well. I don't feel like you feel healthy. I don't feel like you feel whole. And I had gotten into this bad habit of trying to just grind it out, instead of taking those times to journey and to dream and to commune with the divine. And I felt like once I started doing those shifts with you, once I started doing workshops, once I started just taking time to step back from all of my tasks to really experience my life here as my spirit instead of just my body, I felt like my life is just getting better. My magic is getting stronger. And I feel like I'm more, not healed, because I don't think you'll ever be healed. There's a limitless amount of work to heal this spirit. But I feel more whole.
Yes. And you're
so,
right about that aspect of healing. Just real quick. A lot of times people think, oh, you go to an energy healer and you're healed. No, they're simply moving the energy that was stuck within your body so that you can work through it. Okay. An energy healer can't physically heal you. You have to heal you. They can only move the energy that's stuck so that you can work with it more easily. And that's a huge misconception with energy healing and energy healers in general. I'm not calling anybody out, but if you're telling somebody that you can heal them, that's a lie. You know, because you can't. Only you can heal you. Exactly. That is what it comes down to. And healing is a journey until you die.
Yeah.
Because once you're fully healed, there's no reason for you to be in this dimension. Okay? So it's like the healing process is the reason why you're here. And so being grateful that you're having the ability to continue healing is powerful. And once you transcend the need to heal, you'll transcend this dimension, this reality. So it's like, be grateful that you're here and that you're going through the healing process, because that's what's keeping you here as well. And you know, there is people that don't want to be here and they're like, well, why can't I just heal so I can leave? Well, it's because you're not taking the time. Spiritual hygiene is important as physical hygiene, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Grounding, centering, protecting yourself, shielding. It's really what I've been learning, is that you have to do those things. But healing, that's across the board, even as a nurse, even your doctor, your surgery, your wound care, none of that heals you. When I do a wound care, I take your dirty, nasty wound and I clean it out, but then it's still a raw open wound, and then your body will heal it. Or if you have a surgery and they take out cancer, they just took the bad thing out. Your body is going to heal that thing. Nobody ever heals you. They facilitate your healing.
Exactly. Yes.
You still have to do the work. But I was just, we had talked about this before, and because we're getting close to the time, I did want to give away a session with you.
Yes. Okay.
And so we'll work that out. It takes me about a week to cycle through these giveaways.
Oh, that's totally fine.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just gonna tell you. I'll just give you a code that you can give. Like it'll just be like on a. I'll make like a little certificate or something, and then they can just use that in my shop, and so it'll cover the cost, and then they just schedule through that, so it'll be really easy.
Perfect. And so basically, like, comment, and subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. And I still have to process the giveaway from last week, but I had midterms this weekend, so it's just been go. But that will be coming out soon, so please leave that information below. Definitely check out Nadine, because if you are ready for this work will change your life. And not everybody's ready, and I don't know if everybody's going to be, but when you're ready to really step out of your comfort zone and let go, it will work. I mean, to me, it seems like miracles, but the secret is it was always in you. You're just like this little spiritual
you
doula.
doing it.
Yeah. How would you describe yourself? Because I think of you as like a spiritual doula, but I mean, is quantum hypnotist the best way that you want to?
I like spiritual doula. That's kind of what I am, because I don't heal you. I just help you heal yourself. Just like when an actual doula, it's like she doesn't give birth for you, but she helps you walk through the birthing process. And that's kind of what it is for me. I don't actually physically, like, I help move the energy, I help transform it with my alchemy, but it's you ultimately as the person, as the consciousness, that gives birth to the new reality.
Exactly. And I think it's perfect because we have death doulas that guide you into that thing. It's just you're a guide through a liminal space, and the liminal space is this unfortunate gap that we have in modern times between our body and our spirit.
Yes.
And you're just bridging that gap so that we can connect to what's up there waiting for us, trying to communicate with us, trying to give us messages. But you definitely have to be ready, and you definitely have to let go. Just go with it. Like, if you see unicorns or hobbits, or just talking to yourself or your grandpa, or I've heard of somebody had like a lizard or a snake in a chair, and I'm like, that probably means something deeply moving to you.
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard crazy things.
Oh, I have seen it all. I've seen the most interesting beings, like, and because I see them sometimes, not always, but even just the way that you guys describe them to me, like, it's really incredible. It just goes to show how limited we are in our scope of what is real and what is not as a human. When we start tapping into our multidimensional selves, we realize that a lot of the things that we read in story tales and mythology and all of that is actually based on real things within ourselves, like other versions of ourselves in different dimensions, and just the quantum world is so much more than just a human shape and body and what we see on this planet. There's just this is just such a small portion of what is out there, and it's so expansive, and the imagination is the only way you can tap into that. So it's like, unless you're willing to allow your imagination to kind of run wild with you, you're going to be very limited with what you see and what you feel. If you're constantly doubting, like, oh, I just saw a dragon, but dragons aren't real, so I'm just going to kind of pretend like I didn't see that, you're not going to get very far. But if you can be like, there's a dragon, I'm seeing it, there's a reason why I'm seeing it, let's go over and talk to it. That's when you really get like deeper into your journeys and into your experience.
That's so true, Nadine. The deepest, usually that's when I'm going to cry, when we encounter something and it's just like, okay, what does it say? And most of the time I have no idea what it says. I have to go back and watch it. But whatever it says is usually like, for me, soul piercing. I don't know. But I've always had the block with clairaudience. So I think that's probably why that aspect is so moving for me. Because I don't feel like I can ever hear. I feel like I see really well. I feel like I get downloads really well. But hearing, I can never.
It's a technique that's hard to develop. Clairaudience is one of the trickiest of all the psychic abilities, especially with those who have innate clairaudience that's really prominent within their physical reality. If they don't have control over what it is, like their own energy, they're going to be pulling in other people's thoughts and negative thought forms and negative energies. And then they want to know why they're being antagonized all the time. And it's like, well, you have to get to know your energy so well that you know when that's not your energy talking to you. That's somebody else's negative thoughts that you're hearing. Even if they're, 10 miles away, clairaudience doesn't have time-space limitations, okay? Like, you could be in the same room as somebody and picking up on their thoughts, or they could be on the other side of the country and you can still pick up on their thoughts. There's spooky action at a distance, and this is actually a theory in quantum physics where we're all connected, and space is just what we perceive as a a linear or a thing, but it really is just an illusion. As something happens over here, it's also happening over here, and the two are both connected, even though you may not realize it. So this person's having a negative thought, you're picking up on it, and unless you're fully aware that you're picking up on somebody else's thoughts, you're going to think it's your own self talking to you. So you have like, when you're clairaudient or you have clairaudience that's trying to come forward, you need to become very familiar with your own voice, your own inner voice. You need to talk to yourself on a regular basis. You need to get very familiar with what that feels like, so that when something else starts talking to you, you know that it's not you, you're picking it up from somewhere else.
That's so important. That's where the grounding and shielding and protection come in.
Yes.
And I love how you use that as an example, because that's just science verifying something that we already know to be true. If you go to work and somebody at work is in a bad mood and just being terrible, it spreads like wildfire. It reaches out and touches you because those things are contagious, for lack of a better word. Moods are contagious. Feelings are contagious. And we now have little groundworks for scientific reasons why, right?
Yeah. And that's why the more you allow yourself to dive into the world of spirit as well as the world of science and understand both sides and how they work together, you're going to get a way bigger picture of the overall.
That's exactly true. I'm so happy that we worked through this Mercury retrograde and ended up having this chat, because I feel like what you're doing is so important. It's so important. I feel like even if only one person really connects with this message and does this work, then that's still one more collective healing that strengthens all of humanity. And I'm so grateful for you being here. I'm so grateful for you being in my life, because I love our sessions. I've grown so much. And I hope that somebody who wins this experience with you just really gets a lot out of it. I've recommended you to friends, and while my mundane friends who are like super Christian was like, at first it was really weird, but then I got so much out of it. That they wept, that they were deeply moved. And so I do believe that it's for anybody, regardless of what your background is. And maybe for some people, once is enough to kind of just jumpstart them. And maybe for some of us who are really looking to develop our psychic abilities, you want to get on a program. And so that's where really check out the Patreon link.
Patreon.
Because there's sessions, there's levels. They can sign up to do just your group healings monthly, or they could do once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month, whatever. There's options. So definitely check that out. Definitely check her channel out. She's very popular lately, so check out her interview with out on Invoking Witchcraft podcast, which was excellent, by the way. So good. You guys went into some really deep concepts. So if you want to keep on listening to Nadine talk about these wonderful things, definitely check out that podcast episode. You go into your channeling as well, which was super interesting. And I think we talk a lot you talked about, did you get to extraterrestrials in that live?
I can't remember if I did, to be honest. I know I did mention ETs, and that was also kind of what got me into understanding spirituality more, was contact. So having contact for the first time was kind of frightening, and it was a really interesting experience. Like I can't say I was totally scared, because I was a little bit excited. It was new, and I always kind of believed in aliens, so having that confirmation that it was real was really big for me. But ET contact now for me is very common. It happens all the time in sessions. It happens in dream state, in meditation. I see them in the sky. But that was something that was huge for me awakening and opening up to my higher calling, was originally with the ET contact. It was just kind of like, okay, it's time to wake up. It's time to start stepping into your power.
That's awesome.
That was actually where light language started coming from, was the ET contact. So that was what kind of spurred that. So if anybody's curious about light language, definitely check the light language out on my Fascinating Fairy channel. There's a few meditations. It is, it's very interesting. I do all kinds of weird sounds that come through when I'm channeling ETs. Anywhere from like clicking to hissing to some people say it sounds like Spanish. I can usually kind of navigate through whatever's coming through the language and kind of give you an idea. Like, this is working in this part of your body. This is helping you activate this thing. Like, we work a lot with DNA activations because our DNA is highly interconnected to our multidimensional selves, our other selves, our ET selves. So as you allow the DNA to activate, light language is a powerful way to do that. It's just like, it's another form of energy work. I use sound, frequency, and light movement of my hands, because as you move your hands, even when you talk, people who talk are very expressive, talk with their hands. I do that too. You're actually taking the energy of your words and you're moving it around, and you're creating light codes within the space of your reality through the movements of your hands. And those light codes are being implemented and embedded into the subconscious in order to wake you up and make you more aware of who you are as a multidimensional.
That's super interesting. Definitely check that out. I have not had an ET experience except for the fact that I worked at a top secret base in New Mexico when I was in the military. And so I know practically for a fact that there's physical evidence that they exist.
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to be murdered, so I can't go too far into that.
Yeah. No, there's definitely physical evidence enough out there for even a non-believer to finally believe. Like, absolutely. Disclosure, it's like pretty much available for anybody now.
Exactly. It's out there. It's a thing. And I just love the activating your DNA, because we do know that epigenetics, you can do that all the time with food, with trauma. But I love how light language does it in a positive way.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to be late to work, but I'm just so excited to talk to you. But please, thank you so much, Nadine. Everybody check out those links below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and her channel to win a session with her. And thank you so much for coming, Nadine. Guys, thank you for joining us.